So I'm in quite a serious relationship and we've been together for a really long time. I moved in when I was 21. I'm 35 now. And there's been like ups and downs, but I always end up coming back. And I know that my family wish that we'd break up, but they're kind of like resigned to it now. Is it weird to love a country? Like it's kind of more normal to love things about a country, right? Like the food, the culture, the seasons. But I love Japan as kind of the whole package, the good, the bad, even the stuff I'm not game to try yet. And since I was a kid, the only thing I wanted to do was move to Japan. And I've been here for 15 years now, and thinking about the topic of love tonight, I wondered if you could analyze an affiliation with a country like you would a human one. I mean, it's quite one-sided, there's a huge age gap, but there's similarities. Like there's this honeymoon phase where you compare it endlessly to your ex. Like Japan's way more convenient than Australia. The trains in Japan are always on time. Australia is so expensive. You could eat out like 3 or 4 times for that price. And the toilets at Japanese road stops, they're heated and clean. But, there's still some things I had to get used to. It took me 10 years to try natto. And when I did, it was thanks to this British vegan backpacker who had been in Japan for about 5 minutes. And then he ate natto. And I was like, I'm not going to lose to this guy. And that's great because I love natto now. But like any relationship, it takes work and time. And in human relationships, there's what, like 5 love languages? That's like almost as many writing systems as Japan has got. And it takes 2,200 hours of study to become fluent in Japanese, apparently. But what you put in, you get back. So I'm not 100% yet, but being able to speak Japanese has definitely influenced experiences I've had here. And these pictures are from Koyasan, my favorite place in Japan, a village of Buddhist temples where I worked in the kitchen. And I went there because I love the atmosphere and the history, but the people were just fantastic. And as with human relationships, sometimes time away helps you appreciate what you had. So I left Japan and I went to a different country, and I don't want to name names, but it was a very different experience, like a level of culture shock that I've never had before. But Japan took me back without any recrimination, and our relationship moved to the next stage. Like literally, I moved north and I got to see a whole new part of Japan, where Kansai is really settled and has been so for thousands of years. The north is untamed, and it was a place of demons and snow. And it might sound shallow, but Japan is just such a beautiful country. And in choosing these 4 pictures tonight, I had to, of course, include the seasonality. And we have the 4 big ones here. And as Eric knows, we're going through a fake season at the moment, fake spring, where it's quite warm until next week. But even when someone or something's very pretty, relationships go through difficult patches. And as we know, Japan is not very stable geologically. So I was in Ibaraki in 2011 when the earthquake hit in March 11th on Friday at about 10 to 3. But the worst of times can bring out the best of countries and people. And I remember how dark it was that night when the police were out with their batons helping us drivers, or the people in the evacuation center who had to share like a single onigiri, but without complaint, or the volunteers who went up. But I thought that this was the end. So I packed my boxes and I left Japan for good, I thought. But Australia had changed. It had money now. It liked expensive food. But I had changed as well. I couldn't live with people in order to pay rent anymore. And so like a rubber band, I got pulled back to Japan. I mean, you get what you wish for, right? So people ask me when I'm going to leave, and I don't know if I ever will. Because like any relationship, you start taking on characteristics of the other party. With each Japaniversary, I changed a little. I'm still Australian, but not completely anymore. And identity is really interesting to me. Like, how do people label themselves? Why do we change our names when we get married? Is it so that we can connect more to an identity? But I don't know if having a Japanese last name would make me feel more comfortable, because I'm still very defined by how people see me on the outside. The best kind of relationship opens your mind. And Japan gives me perspectives like, what is it like to be an outsider? And makes me think of Australians back home who are often made to feel like they don't belong. And maybe I'm going to go a little bit too far with this analogy, but living with Japan has been productive. I mean, this is my feature film, my baby, Impossible to Imagine, which is a love story that asks questions about where Japan is going in the future. I'm probably going to still be here, so I'm pretty invested in that answer. Because in some ways, being a foreigner in Japan is kind of like being a spouse, and you can wash your hands and leave if it gets too rough. But it's always harder on the kids. And I wonder if I ever have a human one, how they're going to feel about Japan. Are they going to love it, or are they going to leave, like many biracial and bicultural kids do? But I hope that they like it. I mean, there's so many wonderful things about this country. The festivals, the food, the thousands of years of traditions and culture, the scenery, definitely the seasons. You better believe that I'm going to be oversharing my relationship with Japan on social media for years to come. But most of all, what I love about Japan are the people, the community, the sense that people really care about each other, and even strangers on the street. The depth, the length of the friendships I've had here, my family. And I guess in the end, it really is just all about human relationships. I love Japan, but I've always felt loved in Japan.